interesting problem. I mean, the whole notion of surrogate consent is a fiction. I mean, obviously, there's no such thing as surrogate consent. So if I say, um, I make a contribution out of your checkbook to a worthy cause, and I say, well, I'm consenting on behalf of Joan, we would go, well, we don't think it works that way. The question is, why do I ever get to act for you? The notion that the fact that somebody becomes incompetent, you can act for them, is a practical one, which is they can't do it. So someone has to do it um, for them. And then the question is, what are the limits? So the thought of just stepping into somebody's shoes and doing whatever they want to do. So if someone is incompetent, we don't let people consent to their getting married, for example, that a third party can't say I do, and now the incompetent person is married to this person. And the challenge is, what are the nature of those what are the nature of those limits? And it also so it has to do with issues of loyalty, right? Not just power. That when you act on behalf of somebody else, how do you act loyally towards that person? So we have a lot of fictions about what consent means and what surrogate consent means. You talk about you have to act in the best interest. Well, obviously that's not true. We never act in the best interest, in part because we have no idea what the best interest of anybody is. That those are just words, right? So that we don't even act in our own best interest because we don't know what they are. That people do all sorts of things that they know are not in their best interests. Um, so, they like marry inappropriate mates. They smoke cigarettes. They, jump out of tall buildings with parachutes. The thought that people act in their own best interest is a fantasy. We have this notion of best interest from child custody cases that the judges are supposed to decide what's in the best interest of the child in child custody cases. But as has been pointed out, that's a fiction too. Since you can't do what's in the best interest of the child, at that point, what's in the best interest for a child is to have people who love and care about the child, and that what you have is this disruption. But the notion that you can act in the child's best interest at that point is also a fiction. We still use those words. So the words become sort of meaningless. We know that someone has to act, but it doesn't mean that it'll be happy or best. The second thing we talk about, the courts talk about, is substituted judgment. You're supposed to do what the person would want you to do, but no one knows what that is. Right? I mean, in real life, unless someone actually says, here's what I want you to do. And then the judgment, of course, isn't substituted. It's just a person's judgment. So substituted judgment means putting yourself in another person's shoes, which is actually impossible to do. So they're all like guesses, right? And the question of what are we actually doing when we're making judgments for others is, a philosophical as well as a legal question. Um, and the question with parents in particular, children, close family members, is can they act loyally towards the person without letting their own needs get in the way? So that, we hear time and time again of children refusing to remove, elderly parents from tubes and respirators and other extraordinary measures, claiming that their parents would want that they would want everything to be done. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're taking care of themselves. Now, it's entirely understandable that they're doing that. But the notion that they're acting either in the best interest or the substituted judgment of somebody else is not true. They're acting in their own interests. So this is like a very difficult problem. That's why it's interesting. Is what do you do given those facts? And mostly the way we deal with it is consequentially, which is you have the angry or scared or at least vocal child, and you have the unconscious parent. The child will usually win under those circumstances. But that's just practical. It doesn't mean that we're doing the right thing. So one of the things that we always need to know that we're doing the right thing or actually even always do the right thing. We should at least know when we're not doing the right thing and do it anyway. If we're going to do it anyway, we need to be responsible for not doing the right thing.